Bang! Neeves knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife Kara's at work, and this is the Liong Mah Field Duty. This is not a review. I'm actually going to sharpen and mod this knife, but I wanted to get a before clip of it and talk about what I like and dislike about it. Like I said, this is not a review. Now, if any of you have watched my channel, you guys know that this is kind of a knife that I've been wanting to check out for a long time because it just seems like a knife that I would just love. Like, this is kind of a grail to me in a lot of ways. And I love it. I absolutely love it. This is an amazing, amazing knife. Now, I still do have a couple complaints, as I do with all knives. So I have it in for sharpening, and like I said, I'm going to cut in a new choil. We're going to do that in this video. But my complaints, aside from everything I love, and I'll talk about things I love, but so the geometry is great. It's got good geometry. The blade stock thickness is about as thick as a PM2, so not very thick. And if you look at how tall the blade is compared to a PM2, a lot taller, and it gets down to about 15 thousandths behind the edge. I thought it was a little thicker feeling it, but that's what it measured at. Literally right behind the edge. Now it probably gets up to 20 thousandths pretty quick, but it's pretty decent for how tall it is. This thing would slice pretty good, especially with a good edge on it. The choil, though, what they did was in the closed position, you see how it has that right there, so you can't get cut. So Liong Mah is kind of known for like choilless knives, and you see how he's got that section right there. So it's thick right here. It's very thick. This is the plunge grind right here. Then it goes to the edge right here, and then it's the same thickness all the way. But right here is really thick. So, but there is a way to keep this going. So what you can do is, as you sharpen it, you don't sharpen all the way back to here. You sharpen up the blade. Now, if you hit this, it wouldn't matter if you do what I'm about to say. So what you do is you just sharpen it accordingly and try not to hit it. But then you take it on your stone and you just knock it off. So you basically put it back to that every time it gets to a certain point that you need to. Now, after this sharpening, I probably won't need to do that because I won't really remove that much steel. Now, if I start hitting it, then yeah, I'll do it. But yeah, and then, you know, since there's nothing hitting right here, you don't have to worry about it. That stop pin is actually right here, so I don't have to worry about it. But I wish they would have just curled it all the way around, cut it off to here. It would have been, this is a nice big finger choil, so it would have just been a little bit bigger, not much bigger, just a little bit bigger, but then you wouldn't have to worry about it touching back here, and you wouldn't have had to do that. But not a big deal because of what I said. So the ergos are so good on this. With the depth and the thickness it is, if it was any thinner, it would feel very skinny in the hand, but it doesn't because of the thickness, so it's really nice. There's lots of weight relief in here, so when I do cut in the choil, I'm going to have to take it to only a certain part so I don't run into that, but we have plenty of room. The next complaint I have is this clip. The clip's okay. It works. I did put it in and out of my pocket a couple times just to see it. But, you know, there's movement. Let me show you really quick without scratching the finish. There's movement side to side. I'm lifting it up so it doesn't scratch. But there's a little bit of movement side to side. Now, it does go in and out of the pocket just fine, and it does hold. But these clips aren't really the best in my opinion. I just think they could have did better. But it's really not that bad. Now, I would love to see this as a hollow grind, but for a flat grind, it has good geometry for a flat grind. But yeah, I would love to see this as a hollow grind, but I like that. I'm like that with a lot of knives, but for a flat, like I said, this is pretty doggone good. There's a couple things that would make this like my perfect knife if it was done, but even just the way it is right now, this is really close to like almost a perfect knife. Now, I understand what his problem is with the lock bar. Now, I don't really have an issue, and we're going to get into action here in 1 second, because I have big hands, but I don't have thick fingers, so I don't really have a problem hitting this little chamfer, but they did not put a cutout at all. This is all lined up evenly, so kind of like a Medford, you kind of have to wedge your finger in there to get it. So I understand his issue, and he wants to be able just to push it, kind of like a Sabenza. Just push the button, and then you know, it'll be able to close. But the action on this, you have so much room here for your finger and so much leverage. It's very easy to deploy, and the sounds that come out of this thing are amazing. The lock bar, I already talked about that. The drop, extremely smooth. Thumb flick, very easy, and you can slow roll it. This is just an absolute amazing knife. Blade to handle ratio is really good. They did put jimping back here, which usually you'd want for like a flipper, because if this lanyard wasn't here, you could put it in your palm and then flip it. But you hold it like this, so the jimping, I could take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, like, usually that's for flippers, but whatever. Nice big hardware. Love the finish, just the titanium raw look. I love it. The jimping is good jimping. Could be a little better, a little sharper, but I'm great with it. It is great. Works good. The hole, this is another thing I like. The hole is nice and sharp. It's not chamfered all the way around and really smooth. So, and you can also, it doesn't matter because you can get your whole finger in there. But very cool. So let's talk about this mod now. So me and him talked about it, and we're going to bring it from here down and just a little bit right there. I'm going to bring it back. I don't know about as far as I can, but pretty far. He wants it as big as possible, pretty much. So let's get to this thing. Let's tune this baby up. Okay, so I'm not going to show too much sharpening. I'm just going to show a couple swipes on my first stone. I did bring it to a mirror edge. It didn't take too long. The first stone did take actually a while to reprofile, but once I got done with my first stone, the rest of the stones went pretty quick. You know, it just took a little while to reprofile. Here it is on some paper. Things you're going to need, Dremel, aluminum oxide bits, diamond bits, marker. You can give or take the file, some sandpaper. I'm using 320. You're going to want some finishing sandpaper. This is like basically automotive sandpaper. Some tape to tape off, and then a clamp and some safety glasses. And this is just some of my bits for my Dremel. These are the bits I'm going to use, aluminum oxide bits and then a diamond bit. Taking it apart is very easy. It has 3 screws and then it comes apart. You just got to watch out for the stop pin and another pin at the bottom. And you can see it all taken apart here. The ceramic bearings, and then it's got a steel washer separating it from the titanium frame. Lots of milling. And then here I'm just tracing basically where I'm going to do, you know, all the work at. And then I, you know, just separate all the parts, make sure everything's nice and safe and out of the way. And then I separated the different parts in different pouches so that they wouldn't, you know, scratch each other or anything like that. Make sure your station is nice and prepped and ready for work. Right here I'm just gluing some rubber to my little clamp so that it doesn't scratch anything. And then I'm going to, you know, put the knife in this clamp to hold it. And then tape everything off. You got to make sure you tape everything you do not want scratched off. You know, 'cause you never know if you slip or mess up, you know, so you want to make sure everything's taped off except for the area you are cutting. And then I hold my bit when I first start a little bit just to slow it down. I'm using my smaller Dremel, which isn't very powerful, so my other one would be a lot more powerful. I wouldn't be able to slow it down. That's why I like this little handheld one I have. It makes it very easy to control, and I can slow it down if I want to just by putting my finger on it. And that's also what's cool about these bits with this Dremel, is that you can control it without hurting your fingers or anything like that. It doesn't make the surface hot, and it cuts very well. And then this round bit right here really helps to make circles, meaning like if you're cutting a circle, it helps make, you know, like little moon shapes. Basically, you do have to blend them in, but it definitely helps. I know I'm kind of out of focus here, but you can see what I'm doing. And it did take a little while. You know, titanium, you know, is you know, it's a pretty strong material, so it took a little bit of work, but we got it handled. I'm sorry, my head's in the way, of course. But, you know, I want to make sure I'm nice and close with my eyes, make sure I could see everything. And then this is another aluminum oxide bit that I use to, like, kind of round the edges off, because it kind of, you know, as it breaks in the bit, it loses material off of the bit and makes shapes, and you can actually shape it around the edge of like something you're trying to chamfer or something like that. And then here I just put it together to make sure it's good, make sure it's fine. I haven't done any finishing work on it yet. I'm just making sure it's deep enough. And then here I got a metal file to kind of rough up the surface before I really get the sandpaper on. It just kind of takes off a little bit more metal fast. And it's just a metal file, just to make it kind of a little bit quicker. Rough up the surface and kind of tear the titanium up a little bit before I really smooth it out with that sandpaper. You see the sandpaper down there? It's basically just an automotive sandpaper, 320 grit. I didn't want to go too fine because then the surface wouldn't match. And I'm trying to make it blend as much as possible, because otherwise, in order to make it perfect, you do have to get the whole entire thing either blasted or the whole entire thing resurfaced so that it all matches. And I'm just trying to get it as close as I can to prevent getting it blasted or resurfaced. You can kind of see it there, all, you know, just put together. Well, not all put together, but you know what I mean. And it looks really good, so I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to do the finishing work with the sandpaper, kind of roll it up, and, you know, at first you can kind of just scrub it, but then at the end you kind of want to put it all towards one direction. It makes it blend a little bit better than if you just, you know, like scrub it all over. Just make it go one direction, and it really, really helps with making it blend, at least in my opinion. All right, finished product. Let's take a look at the lock bar. You can see it a lot. You can actually see it now. I'm hoping it's big enough for him. I mean, you can come from the side now. It's not like a Chris Reeve or anything, but it's way better than it was. And then the finish came out pretty good. It needs to be wiped off a little bit, but. And then I cleaned the inside, you know, oiled it. Very smooth. Is it perfectly centered? Yes, it's perfectly centered. No play. I mean, this thing's solid. This thing's a very solid. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put the lanyard on. I'll get to that. This thing's so easy to take apart and put back together. I mean, it's literally 3 screws. So very, very easy. You just got to watch out for the pins because this pin and this pin comes out. But other than that, this thing, I don't know if he's going to, after this video, decide that he wants a grip pattern thrown over this edge. If he does, it'll take me 2 minutes, if that. It's just me throwing a layer of grit over the top of this mirror edge, which in return will give it a little bit more bite. I mean, this thing, the M390 on this, I mean, did keep a good amount of bite for a mirror edge. I could tell if I go any more mirror, I'll start losing it. So there actually is a layer of light grit. If it'll focus over, you can kind of see it there. But looks really good. I'm very happy with it. The finish came out really good. It actually matches up a lot better than I thought it was gonna. And yeah, I think it came out pretty awesome. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think it's better, worse? Man, I love this knife. The sounds, the ergos, everything. This thing's amazing. Let me know what you guys think about it.